Star Wars has never and never will be remembered for its writing. You know, it's got very clunky dialogue, some very poorly constructed scenes and character arcs. But episode 4 of Obi-Wan Kenobi hits new lows in terms of story construction, character choices, and just general common sense. This episode was the shortest episode so far, and I have no problems with a short episode if you can justify the brevity of the length. So long as the content feels like it's enough for the self-contained episode, I'm okay with it. Episode 4 genuinely feels like it's missing about 20 minutes of build-up. And most of my script problems for this episode come in probably the first 10 minutes, in fact. First of all, you have Obi-Wan in the bacta tank, again juxtaposed with Vader. It teases a very emotionally rough episode for Obi-Wan. You know, he's scarred, he's broken, he's fretting about Leia. And then in the next scene with Obi-Wan, which is about 2 minutes later, he's dressed, he's healed, he's ready to go, his mind is on the mission. The character continuity between those two scenes in the space of about 5 minutes of screen time was just really radically opposite. You know, he just went from one to the other with no sense of through line. Considering how much time this season has spent towards Obi-Wan's turmoil, his regret and guilt, to suddenly just brush over that after his first encounter with Vader in what, a decade, just felt very, very wrong. Then you've got, and this is probably I think the most hilarious lapse in writing quality for this episode, the scene where he goes to O'Shea Jackson Jr.'s pilot, Rocken was his name, for help flying to Fortress Inquisitorius, and he refuses. And then at the end of his own monologue, this isn't characters arguing with him, this is him just spieling out his own personal history with the Empire. He then says, "You want my help, you got it." So after protesting that he's not going to take Obi-Wan and Tala, he then somehow convinces himself that he's going to, after just protesting the idea.
People have started to mate with vegetables.
Someone is getting paid thousands of dollars to write this show. I would do it for free, and I would do it better. I'm willing to throw that gauntlet out there. On the plus side this week, I didn't find Reva totally, you know, weak in terms of acting and screen presence. I'm sorry, the fact that most of her scenes are spent interrogating a child about the location of safe houses, which, come on, she shouldn't know, right? I'm not putting it past the Star Wars writers to say that Leia does know this stuff, but she is, what, 8? She should not know top secret locations of the Rebel path, right? Surely. So either the writers are stupid and Leia does in fact know this, or the writers are stupid in making Reva think that Leia would know this. There's no right way to look at it. But considering up until this point I've found those two the weakest parts of the show, seeing them on screen together was surprisingly bearable. Apart from the obvious nonsensical behaviour that Leia would know this information, and the whole setup of the scene itself was okay. But if one thing is clear at the moment, it's to Order 66 to whoever is writing this show.
What in the name of holy fuck is going on?
So yeah, overlooking the fact that we skip over about 10-15 minutes of build-up to going in and infiltrating the fortress, we then get to the fortress, and there's a couple of fun bits in this sequence, you know, I will give it that. Anytime Obi-Wan uses the lightsaber, especially with the dark, the lighting again, like I praised in the last episode, and the bits with him rescuing Leia with those stormtroopers in the dark, was very, very awesome, and I felt he had a real screen presence. Again, Ewan McGregor is the MVP of this show. Despite the mediocrity of everything around him, Ewan McGregor doesn't disappoint. And even though I think the choreography of him deflecting the blasters with the stormtroopers firing at him from both ends could have been better handled, I did enjoy seeing him be a bit more competent, a bit more fluid with his movement, and seeing him use the Force, and not just use the Force but control the Force. Felt like they're finally moving Obi-Wan in the right direction, so I was glad to see that. But as an episode that was very light on plot and pretty non-existent in terms of character development, this episode was all about the action and rushing us through it. I wish it had been a bit more of a spectacle, a bit more memorable.
Is that all?
I thought the scene in the hangar could have been a bit better, especially considering it's a wide open space and you've got about 100 stormtroopers shooting at them. I know their aim is bad, but come on. And then at the end of the episode, the writer makes a weird kind of ploy to make you care about a rebel who's just died, and spends a couple of minutes at the end of the episodes really kind of trying to let that sink in. We don't care. We've only just been introduced to this character. I did like Obi-Wan and Leia's interactions this week. Again, it feels like it's built on the criticisms that I had early on, and they kind of reined her in a bit. So her kind of, you know, reaching out for Obi-Wan's hand at the end, that genuinely felt quite sweet. I do quite like their bond, and I like the way they play it. And I do love Leia in this show whenever she's not one-upping every adult she's in a scene with. So the show had some good sequences, mainly Ewan McGregor with the lightsaber, with the Force. That was pretty much it. It was cool to have a bit of a Phantom Menace throwback with him swimming into the base. Why he didn't put the Stormtrooper costume on and go full A New Hope just for common sense's sake of disguise. We won't question it. But the whole concept of the episode came with some okay scenes. You know, him in the Jedi tomb and seeing some of the Clone Wars Jedis was really fun to watch. Again, I think that would have landed more had Vader been in this episode for more than just the end scene. After a big episode with him and Obi-Wan in episode 3, to cut him out completely for episode 4, in what should have been an episode of emotional fallout for these characters. You know, it really does feel like we've missed an episode from getting where Obi-Wan was at the end of episode 3 and the start of episode 4 to where he was for most of episode 4. Their character development just seems to have gone 50-50. But I've given up with expectations for this show now. I'm just watching it, you know, and knowing that they just can't break my heart anymore. I hope they give Obi-Wan his comeuppance in the next 2 episodes, because they've got a lot of heavy lifting to do. Disney just continue on their path of destroying legacy characters, and what are we supposed to do with that? I know a lot of people are hating the show like me. I know there are some odd people out there who love the show.
You're not a bad person, but I'm afraid to say you are a moron.
Raise your standards. Please comment below, would love to hear your thoughts. Anything that you would praise that I have just hated on. Please consider liking and subscribing to my channel. It's always a huge help. But thank you for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time.